establishing of the country, and now today. We're not Africans. We're an admixture of people. We have multiple ancestry. We're not Africans. Yes, some of us have African DNA. Some. Now, we also have an intermixture of culture. Our culture is an intermixture of all three of these particular group of people that was here in this country that made this country what it is today. The African descendants from the African slaves, they became Negro people, a whole new people. They were not called African anymore because they were not African. They're a mixed up group of people, became labeled Negroes, and then later on down the line, this, and then the name changed again and it changed again. And it's evolution. It's a part of evolution. It's the same thing as people growing as they mature into different stages of life. They mature, as they mature, they change. They evolve to better or worse, you know. But listen, we're not African. I will not allow anybody to force me to claim that I am African. No, baby, I'm not African. I have an admixture of ancestry. Okay, that's it. Now, the title again, FBAs disputing African and Caribbean lawyers, trying to steal our whole identity, culture, and culture creations in America. Now, how you claiming to invent all this stuff and you took part in all this stuff and you just coming here? Why would you come here and fight for us to have a Black History Month? Why would you come here and take our elements and use it to make some type of whatever, hip hop, so called, whatever, and claim you invent? I mean, the retardation behavior. And when I say retardation, let me explain. I'm not saying a disability that a person has, but I'm speaking of there's a new urban definition for retardation, not retardation, acting retarded. And that would be for somebody who acting with little comprehension skills, right? We perceive you to be somebody who can operate on their own, but you have little comprehension skills. And when it comes to Africans and Caribbeans, their mindset is so completely different than ours. You won't find common ground. I mean, this, I know we realize this by now. We're not about to find common ground with them. They are tribal. They're tribal. They come to compete, to take, and they take. They're savage minded. You understand what I'm saying? And they find us to be weak people that just allow them to take our candy. That's what they think about us. I heard this from a Caribbean guy on an African panel, and he was talking to the African guy. He goes, "Yeah, I don't like y'all niggas anyway. We gonna take what we want from you." And I'm like, "Ooh." I'm listening. I'm like, "Oh." He was talking. He was going at it with an FBA brother. The FBA brother wasn't even rogue acting. He was just like, "Oh, really?" You know, talking to him, and the Jamaican was off the hinges. You understand what I'm saying? He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna take what we want from y'all." So when you hear them on these panels heavily trolling FBA family, their attitude is they're gonna take what they want from us. Example being our name, Black American. They didn't came over here. They know they're not Black Americans. They know that that is how a particular group of people identify themselves, an ethnic group of people in this country identify themselves. So why would you come here and call yourself a Black American? You're not a Black American. You're a Jamaican, a Haitian, or wherever the heck you come from. That's what you are. You're not a Black American. You can say you're Black, but you're not a Black American. That's the difference. You're Black, but you're not a Black American. To make a statement saying, "Oh, I'm Black and I'm in America," we know that's dumb foolery. You're Jamaican or Haitian or Nigerian in America. So that therefore you're a Jamaican American or Nigerian American or so forth like that. But you're not a Black American. Even the white tea people knows this. They know the difference now. They distinguish and they're like, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, they most certainly are heritage Americans. But on the other end, we have these Africans and Caribbeans trying to take our whole identity and culture, creations, latching on to us left and right, claiming that it is theirs. Did you guys? I wish I could have played the Dr. Kwanzaa Kujufu. Dr. Kwanzaa. No, Joanza. Let me pull it up right quick to make sure I'm pronouncing his name properly. I want you guys to look this up, okay? Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you hear a little bit of this before I get deep into it. Because this is what they do. They constantly cosplay and latch on to us, pretending to be us. And we know about Umar. Let's touch upon him right quick. Big ups to Black Alpha Network, who exposed Umar for being Cuban lineage with a video where Umar is speaking directly out of his own mouth about his Cuban lineage and how he was honored to meet his granddaddy or somebody that was Cuban. Now, I seen some other FBAs do streams on Umar, and they were kind of hesitant to speak on Umar being Cuban. And I'm like, wait a minute, is it me or you know what I'm saying? Like, is it me or why these people kind of tiptoeing around Umar is Cuban? Like, say it louder, say it proud. Umar's Cuban. They kind of tiptoeing around it like maybe it was an AI video or something. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to say it if it ain't so because I mean, I saw the video and it didn't look AI. So therefore, he's Cuban. Maybe they were thinking, well, I don't want to speak on it yet because he may have a FBA parent. He may be bi ethnic. But even if so, even if he's bi ethnic, he stands against us. He don't stand with us. He stands against us as foundational Black Americans who are pushing for economic justice for a very long time in this country. He stands against us. This man tries to Africanize us so that all of dark skinned people, because Africans in their little teeny brains believe that every dark skinned person comes from Africa. Yeah, I know it's weird, it's crazy, but he believes all dark skinned people who was enslaved, I guess. No, not just enslaved. He believed Africans should get it too, should get reparations that is due to foundational Black Americans. Now, I heard Yvette stream before, and she was speaking on that. And I totally agree with her when she says, listen, ain't nothing wrong with you thinking that you guys deserve reparations. But how about you put together your group and summon the government for reparations for your particular ethnic group? That's right, girl, that's right. I agree with that. Ain't nobody telling you you don't deserve reparations or whatever. Put together your own group and summon the government, but leave us out of it. The thing is, they don't want to leave us alone. They don't want to leave us out of their mess. Latching, latching, latching. Umar knows that that would never stand before anybody. They're going to be like, what is wrong with this cuckoo bird coming up here talking about what? He knows that's pure stupidity with caps. It's stupidity, pure stupidity. This man has shown his hand as an enemy to the FBA family. He is to be ignored and dismissed on every level. Every level. He been sitting up there pretending to be one of us. Do you know, I remember seeing a video of him saying, my ancestors fought in this war and that war and that war. I was like, why you got to say all that? And sure enough, he's trying to insert himself into the FBA family when he's not. And you ask me, I don't believe he have no FBA parents. He's just Cuban. Cuban American. Trying to insert himself into the FBA family. And he know once we found out that he was Cuban, it's said and done. It's a wrap. Pack it up. Throw it away. It's done. Excuse me. He's tossed. So listen, honey, you know, trying to Africanize us and knock down reparations that's due to us. Ooh, that's enemy work right there. That's backstabbing stuff, pretending to be us, and girl, that's grimy. That's some griminess. But listen, um, we now know who he really is and what he's really about. He's not one of us. We know this. What else I wanted to say about that? Let me see. Yeah, he's just done. It's really, we don't even need to speak on it anymore. I mean, it's just done. It's said and done. He's not one of us. He's a tethering, practicing parasitic behavior and mindset, just like the rest of them, which is really, really unmanly. It's an unmanly behavior to think that way. But pardon me, I never been in a situation where I gotta pretend to be somebody else, a whole different ethnic person. That's some crazy stuff right there. When you gotta go to a whole nother country and I'm gonna pretend like I'm a Jamaican. That's some weird stuff too. That's kind of weird to me. Okay, but listen, if I'm gonna have to pretend to be another ethnic person, group, a different ethnic person, which I'm not, if I have to pretend to be them to survive, I darn sure wouldn't disrespect them. That's the part right there. I wouldn't disrespect them in a process, call them all kind of names and dislike them to the fullest, but I'm pretending to be them to survive. Do you guys see the mental in that? That's some cuckoo bird stuff. It's cuckoo bird behavior. I want y'all to look up the definition of a cuckoo bird, by the way. Okay? It's cuckoo bird behavior. So, yeah, we can leave him alone because he just talked and done. So it's enough said about him. It was something else I had really wanted to say. Got it. I wanted to share a video with you guys. That's why I was streaming from the computer, but I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna have to share the video sound rather than rather than streaming it from the computer because that wasn't working. But I want you to hear this. This is Umar right quick. Okay, this is a YouTube video playing, but just listening. The concept of the ODD, the learning disability services. Put children in special ed for behavior supposed to be learning. They're using it as a trash can where they dump black boys who don't know how to control themselves. Even though it's illegal, they're doing it. And so we have. All right. So we heard that part, what he's about, right? Where he's pushing. Well, let me tell you where the tether lashed up and lashed on to Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, educational consultant. This man went into the retirement. Umar came behind him and picked up what he was pushing back in the mid-70s, in the early mid-70s, okay? This man been pushing this a long time. He wrote all kind of books. This one of our FBA brothers, Dr. Juwanza Kajufu. Listen. Educational consultant. He's in particular for Black boys in public education. Now, here is Dr. Juwanza Kajufu with his penetrating presentation on countering the conspiracy. Yeah, Charlie, correct. Listen to this man back in the 70s, early 70s.
Preschool, primary grade, they're very innocent and very enthusiastic about learning. Something happens to them. We need to find out what that is. My younger son is going to cover this particular book, and I would like for him to grow up to be a man. Like many of you already told me, you have sons and male students as well. And it's two parts of the conspiracy, volume 1 and volume 2. In volume 1, we raised 4 questions. First question is, when did the conspiracy start? Who is against Black boys? Why is there a conspiracy against them? And what exactly is the conspiracy? That's in volume 1. In volume 2.
Let me let you hear another clip.
This particular book, and I would like for him to grow up to be a man. Like many of you already told me, that you have sons and male students as well.
Black boys with 4 piercings. When did the conspiracy begin? Who was against Black boys? Why does such a conspiracy exist?
Wait, that's this the video. Hold on. Not hearing center, learning center. 20 years ago. So anyways, I wanted y'all to hear Brother Dr. Jawanza, Jawanza, Kunjufu, Kunjufu, Fu at the end, educational consultant, okay? And this is whom Umar has lashed himself onto after this man went into retirement. Umar, as you know, as the tethers do, they come and lash themselves on and pick up something that we was doing already and push it along like, you know, like they did it. They've been doing it or came up with it. Yes. I wanted y'all to know that. So we can move along from him. He is definitely a tether in all caps. Okay. Let's move along and let's talk about, I want to discuss this real quick. ADOCS, American Descendants of Chattel Slavery / Foundation of Black Americans, FBAs, we are not a part of the African diaspora. That's not us. The African diaspora is people that was born in a place, a particular place, country, and then they left and established lives elsewhere in the world and had children in those other places and everything like that. Okay, that's the diaspora. The Jews have a Jew diaspora, but you know it's for Israel. They have a Jew diaspora where they welcome all the Jews back home to give them free land and housing and checks and stuff like that. Africa, those different countries, they have their people that left and migrated to other places in the world to establish themselves and live and stuff. That is African diasporans. Okay. Caribbean people. They also have different islands have the Caribbean diaspora. Whatever island you're from, Jamaican diasporans, St. Thomas diasporans, like that. And then there's America. They also have a diaspora. We, Black Americans, or we have people that's in other parts of the world, they're American diasporans. They're not a part of the African diaspora. That's why the Africans are sitting up there like, I see, let's add them on the 16th chapter or 7th chapter, whatever they're doing, adding on the 6th chapter of Lost Nations, Descendants of Slaves. Who the hell wants to go back to Africa? Where they're still selling slaves? Really, we're not a part of their diaspora, people. Okay? Remember that. When they talk about the diaspora, look, B, I'm not a part of your diaspora. I'm American. When I leave this country and go elsewhere, I'm American diaspora. I'm not African. Look, cuckoo cells. That's so irritating calling somebody African. Like it's highly disrespectful. But I want to say this also. They're heavily trolling the foundation FBA family online on social media. Heavily trolling you guys. That's why I stopped entertaining them because it's gotten to the point where they don't care what your response is. They just want to distract you from focusing on you and building. So we say we was gonna delineate. We don't need to be focused on them. We need to be focused on delineating. We don't need to focus on them things. What you know? So they're heavily troll. It's gotten to the point where they are just saying the most dumbest, the just dumb. It's okay. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, we definitely do not need to be entertaining such people on social media because it kind of make us look bad. It kind of make us look just as dumb as they are when we having conversations with people who seem not to understand us. No, we're not African. Yes, you are. How can you deny your? I mean, it's trolling. I don't know if that's their way of making foundational Black Americans. Oh, and let me tell you what they do also. Like I had one of them come in my chat, and they came in. It was like, "Hi, Chantel," and so when they came in the chat, it was like, "Hi, Chantel." It made me calm, right, to entertain them because they greeted me respectfully, and that's what they do. They start by greeting you with compliments, and then as you talk to them, they start trying to tear and rob you out of your identity by telling you you're African, but yet they'll call themselves an American. Really? The stupid stuff like that. Telling you, well, you're not powerful in this country, you don't have any rights, and just all kind of stupid stuff. But they start off with compliments. This is the trolling effect going on. They play dumb. They play the victim. They play like they created stuff that they didn't create. They play like everything came from Africa. Everything we do come from Africa. And anybody with a brain knows that's not true. A 7-year-old can tell you that's not true. It's all a part of them trolling. Now, let me get deeper with this because in Nigeria, we found out that Nigerians were heavily trolling foundational Black Americans online. Oh, yeah. And let me tell you something. The Nigerian tech hub is controlled by white people. The whole industry over there was created by white men. And they put some of the businesses in the names of Africans. They set them up over there. And so what I mean by set them up, they gave them jobs and some money, not a whole lot, and created a whole tech hub over there, called it a tech hub and made them feel whatever, put them in there and taught them some skills to get on social media and harass the F out of us for whatever reason. But you must understand that they're under the control of those white people. So those white people can give a signal to them to do whatever they say do, and they're going to do it because that's who owns the tech. industry in Nigeria, YT people. So see, they don't stand with us. You understand? They don't stand with us, boo. They already have people that's, controlling them, which is the YT people over there who went over there and set up a whole tech and give them orders on what to do, especially on social media. Now, also we have that guy, the Dennis Liu guy, who bought all of our Black American traditional companies and stuff like Essence and stuff, and Madam C.J. Walker products and stuff, and all of that. Bought up all our cultural traditions. Now, I hope y'all know what's up with that. They already, the history of him, he comes from Liberia, a country that was built by American freedmen, in a country that was stole by the indigenous Africans who shot the leaders and then ate them raw, passed them through the tribes and ate them raw because they believed that they absorbed people's power by eating them. And they ate the leaders, and the other people fled for their lives, running to the white man's arms, crying, save them from the Africans. And the Africans didn't only take the land, but they also stole the people's identity. This is very important. They stole the people's identity. They are out here calling themselves the names that American freedmen was calling themselves, American Liberians, or Liberian, period. There is no African supposed to be walking around calling themselves Liberian. But because they stole the country, they also stole the people's identity, and they masquerading around like they're Liberians when they're not. That is what they come to America to do. Steal our identity and culture just like they did in Liberia, in Africa. They come over here and they're looking to steal our identity just like they did in Liberia. They stole the name Liberia from American freedmen. Those are not Liberians, those are indigenous Africans. Any Africans talking about they Liberian? That's not so. They're indigenous Africans that stole the country and the names and ate the leaders. Y'all better wake up to what's going on. Now this guy, Dennis Liu Ritchie, who bought all of our traditional events and stuff. He purchased all of that, and he's now one second. Yeah, he purchased all of that, and he's now working with Nigerians, who I just said is online social media trolling Foundation of Black Americans heavily. Yeah, he's working with them. Constantly. Now, hold on, let's back this up. They cannot troll you if you don't entertain them. You do know that. They cannot troll you. But the only way they can troll you is if you actually entertaining them. Yeah. So that's my take on that. I think I'm gonna leave that right there. That we need to understand on social media, you're being heavily trolled to the point that the conversations, the discussions is just pure stupidity. I mean, it's not even worth having a conversation. And it doesn't do, foundational Black Americans any good to have conversations with these people who are straight trolling them. Okay? It makes you look just as dumb as them. Okay? That's why I have a rule. I do not, do the back and forth with them anymore. I used to go on the Pan-African panels and do the back and forth. I don't engage anymore. because I realized that it's trolling. It's a form of trolling, you know, and it's tribal minded behavior. There's a lot of jealousy involved. It's a lot of we're better, and it's foolery. So yeah, moving along from that. Um, let me speak on. There's people I've heard on these panels. There's people I've heard on the panels, and they were like, "Yeah, we supported you, Black Lives Matter. We supported the protests, the George Floyd protests. We were protesting with you." And that is not the true case. The truth is, they were not protesting with you. The truth of the matter is, the Black Lives Matter organization was purchased. When it first started, let's go back to the beginning. When it first started, it was an organization that moved from online to public activity like it's supposed to. And so it moved to public activity, engagement, and protesting. Okay. So as they were out there protesting in little groups here and there around the country, they were protesting, and it was very quiet, but it was happening. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, there was this wild rage wind of violent protesters, face covered, all that, out there cutting up, busting up, burning stuff, doing all kind of wild stuff. And you guys may have never heard of the Antifa protesters. You need to look it up if you haven't. They do it it's a yearly thing. And, it came about because of a protest that took place. And, um, it became a traditional protest because of what happened. I want you guys to look that up yourself, the Antifa protesting. But they were out there and they were cutting up. And the Black people that was out there under the Black Lives Matter protesters that was organizing marches and protests, they were like, "Who are y'all? Don't do that. Don't burn that. Don't wreck that. They don't even think that's us." And the people was like, "No, we have to do it." And then the Black people were like, oh no, we're filming to let you guys know this isn't us. We don't know who these people are, but they're not with us. They had the Black people all discombobulated, like, what's going on here? You're not Black Lives Matter protesters. And they saw all kind of peoples coming out just cutting up. And so what had happened was that the organization, the Black Lives Matter protest organizers, or organization, or the leaders, you can say, they sold the organization to a J-man. You know what I mean by J-man. And that J-man in turn used the Black Lives Matter protesters organization to connect all protesters around the world. Somebody's making moves out there, plotting. And that person used that organization to connect not only Black people, but all protesters for different protesting reasons. And so that's what that was about. So Black Lives Matter became an international organization. It was no longer a George Floyd protest only. It was about the world. And Black Americans who were out there protesting did not know that. The organization was sold off to a Jew man who in turn made it a full-blown international organization. And when you look at it online and stuff, you see it's in every nation and ethnic group. Black Lives Matter protesters. Wow. Now, I don't know what the person was up to, or what their thing was really about. I don't know. But they took it and turned it into an international organization. And I just want you to know when people telling you, "Oh, yeah, I protested for you," and George Floyd thing. No, 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 you wasn't out there in the beginning when it was just foundational Black Americans. You came in once the organization was sold off to a J man, and he turned it into an international organization. That is what you supported, but you didn't support Black Americans protesting the George Floyd situation. So be aware of that. I've heard on different panels where they come on a panel and be like, "Yeah, we stood with you and protested with you." No, you didn't. No, no, you didn't. Mm-mm. We're not going to do that. All right. So, um, and be careful of the organizations. Sometimes these orgs, sometimes they be bought, you know. So, I was listening to a panel earlier today while I was cooking, right? It was a Pan African panel. I clicked to see what they were yapping about because the title read, hold on, let me pull it up right quick. The title had read, "The King Family Skipped Jesse Jackson's Funeral." I clicked to see what's up. I know it's a Pan African channel who's going to be talking crap about foundational Black Americans, right? But at the same time, the host identified himself as Nigerian, and then he bounced back Black American, and he even got the nerve to say he's foundational Black American. And he doesn't have a foundational Black American panel. But they got a lot of cuckoo birds on that panel. Look up the definition of cuckoo birds, by the way. They have a lot of cuckoo birds on that channel that call themselves, that identify as foundational Black Americans when they're not. They got one of them, he from a Latin country. One of them, he from Alabama, I think he said, by the name of Bobo. This Buster, I thought that he was I really thought the way he was windmilling for a foundational Black American, that he was foundational Black American. But come to find out, he took his hat off, and lo and behold, the hairline was basically starting at his ears. So that's a big, big, big question mark. And besides that, he didn't understand why I would debate the Pan-African the host identifying himself as an FBA when he's criticizing foundational Black American ancestors. So I knew right then and there, oh, he's not really one of us. He's just born and raised here. He took on the identity and culture of a Southern Black. When you hear some of these New Orleans people speaking with a New Orleans accent, I want you to remember they probably is not from New Orleans. They just learned the accent. Yeah, they actually learned the accent. See, I'm born and raised there. I'm rooted there all the way through. Mom and dad, my whole family, all the way through. Period. That's where they're from. Some people move there when they're young. Some people move there when they're older, and they just pick up the accent and carry on as though they're from there and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of creepy, weird too. They got some FBA people that tether New Orleans culture and the accent. It's really creepy and weird. It's like me going around talking like I'm from, let's say I got a Boston accent. Oh my gosh. Like I got a Boston accent. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Boston, but I'm really not. It's so weird. It's so weird. I can't even play like that. Like, yeah, I'm from Boston, but I'm really not. I just, picked up the accent and carrying on. But I guess if they're a fanatic of the culture and the accent and stuff, they really like it and stuff. So I was watching a video, and there was a guy on a video, and he had his phone filming people at a cookout in New Orleans. And I'm like, oh, this dude ain't from New Orleans doing that. He must be crazy. He can't be from New Orleans. You don't do that in New Orleans, baby. You don't even learn nobody's real name unless you get really, really entangled with them for years. They will only tell you a nickname. You are not about to put cameras in their faces and ask them where they're from. What? That is a dangerous move in New Orleans. And I'm like, this dude is not from New Orleans. Mm-mm. And it made me, I'm just watching the video. I wanted to click off because I was like, he's doing something stupid and oof. And so rather than clicking off, I watched it for a few minutes and I'm like, I'm like, nah, he definitely not from New Orleans. He put the camera in their face. Where you from? They lying. They like, yeah, the tent war. What's my name? Jack. I'm like, you are on some trip. Boy, if you don't put that camera down and get out them people's face. Listen, as he continued to talk, he began to roll his R's. Yeah, brother, it's better over there. I was like, I knew it. I knew he was not from New Orleans. But when you hear him talking on when you hear him talking, he was speaking with a New Orleans accent. But when he started rolling them R's, he couldn't hide it then. You know them Spanish people they can't help but roll those R's. Brother, right, brother, it's brother over there. You know, when I was in high school, I took Spanish. And that was the one thing I could not get pat down when I took Spanish. I could not roll the R's. It was very hard. It's still hard for me to roll those R's. Brother, it's better over there. It go fast. It's better over there, brother. Brother, it's better over there, brother. I was like, all it took was for me to continue to listen to the video with him speaking like he from New Orleans and come to find out, here it is, he rolling them R's, not from New Orleans. So yeah, just because you hear people speaking with a particular accent, it don't really mean they're from, especially New Orleans. A lot of people like to cosplay New Orleans. Yeah, they like to cosplay it a lot. I find it kind of weird. I don't know. Like, I'm not judging anybody, but it's just kind of weird to cosplay another person's ethnic group in accent. I mean, it's weird. Now, if you moved there when you was pretty young, you're gonna pick that up. You're just gonna naturally pick that up. So I don't blame somebody who moved there when they were young, but it's weird. So moving along, yeah, that needed to be said because I heard a girl, she was speaking with a New Orleans accent and she was a whole Pan-African. And I'm like, nah, girl, you're not from New Orleans because in New Orleans, don't nobody be claiming African nothing. You better not call nobody down there no African. Them people will set you straight. You call them anything but an African. They will look at you crazy like, African? Who you talking about? They claim their indigenous roots for sure. Not no African, sweetheart. And it's heavy Creole roots and indigenous roots. Don't nobody call themselves African now. We celebrate indigenous roots and Creole roots. We don't African. I've never in my life heard nobody be out there talking about they African or whatever. And we did not grow up with immigrants. When I was growing up in New Orleans, we didn't have immigrants there. I only had one white teacher. I don't know of any high school that had white teachers in New Orleans when I was growing up. Okay, in the 90s. It wasn't no white teachers like that. I had one white teacher. He was a young white guy who rode a bike and whatever. He was our science teacher. I've never had a white teacher in high school or elementary because it was pretty segregated. It was racist and segregated as well. I don't ever recall immigrants, period. Ever. I don't know where those Middle Eastern people live who had stores because they didn't live in our communities. Okay. So, yeah, and Africans and all that at our school, we had none of that going on. None of that. Okay, but they do have an influx of them now since that Katrina happened. A lot of them located there to work and they ended up staying and stuff like that. Okay. But yeah, we didn't grow up. New Orleans is a very ooh, people are so proud of the culture there. Is they so proud of the culture, and family is everything to them. Taking care of their children, family is everything. The more numbers, the more proud. Sweetheart, family is everything to them. They don't call themselves African. Nobody ever called themselves. Listen, when people move to the city on the outskirts, people are so proud of their identity. You better identify yourself as a Creole. But when you move to the city in New Orleans from the outskirts, we all just say black. And some of them be looking whitish, and the ones that's really like mixed. Eh, Everybody just say black. Period. When you move to the city, one girl got mad with me because I refused to identify as Creole. I'm like, it don't matter. Girl, yes, it does. Not in the city. Everybody just call themselves black. We're gonna see a bunch of high yellow Creoles with black women, and vice versa. Nobody cares in the city. We just say black. So, anyways, nobody has ever said African. Where you from? Africa? Never heard of it ever in New Orleans. Where your roots from? Africa? No, never heard. We were not taught that. We were taught about our indigenous roots. My family on my mom's side have a whole book because my grandmother, mother was full blood Cherokee Native, and they grew up. My mother's mother grew up on a reservation, and then they moved to the city when she was about 18 years old. I don't know nothing about no damn African. What are you talking about? Okay, hello. Creole is on my mama's dad's side is Creole, and my daddy's side is Creole. Hello, Creole just mean mixture. So, anyways, yeah, moving along from that, that's why I don't identify as African. I don't do that African stuff. No, baby, I have different ancestry. I have multiple ancestry. I'm not African. I have multiple ancestry, and it's unfortunate a lot of our people don't know their lineage because majority of us have indigenous lineage, and all that 1% and 2% DNA retardation mess. That's pure freaking foolery. It's foolery. Matter of fact, some people is from an indigenous family with an African ancestor, meaning the family is indigenous, but an African married into the family. My goodness. Anyways, we're not talking about that tonight because I'm gonna go through this pretty fast. I'll talk about that another time because we gotta break that down because we got these indigenous mixed all indigenous people have been whitewashed. Period, point blank. Okay. The ones that was whitewashed that was over in the West Coast, that's the Spanish people because they were enslaved under the Spanish crown. Y'all remember Texas and New Mexico and Colorado, a little bit of Colorado and Nevada and Idaho, and Utah and California and Arizona. All that was Mexico. American War happened and they took it over. The people who was in those countries, they say we're gonna make you American. Okay, they did not enslave them though, but they did enforce them to do stuff. But they did not enslave them. They were not enslaved. They did not build America. That's those Spanish looking ones with the light skin and silky hair. They'd be like, oh, we know the white people just put you in charge because that's what they do. They base things on skin complexion, the what do you call that? The colorism caste system. Okay. And so they made them out to look like, oh, this is how the originals looked at. And I want you to understand this, people. All indigenous people did not look alike in America. They all didn't look alike. And they were super tribal, just like in Africa. The setup in Africa, where they tribal as hell, it was the same thing in America. Those in the native peoples of this land was very tribal. They fought with each other a lot. Yes, they did. So I don't know why them white looking ones, them Spanish looking ones who think they the real natives, which they're not, right? Because we also got indigenous native tribal lineage that we were mixed with, just like they were mixed with. Um, and they thinking they the boss talking about who native and who not. Child, if you don't go take a seat with that white man stuff, go sit down. So you know darn well all tribes didn't get along. All tribes didn't, I mean, it's common sense. All tribes didn't look alike. All native people around this um continent didn't look alike. Just like on the continent of Africa. All them tribes over there did not look alike. They got very distinctive features and all of that, right? And cultures of their own. Same and languages. Same thing over here. That's how it was over here. All the natives did not look alike because many of them look just like we look, foundational Black Americans. All natives did not look alike. They did not speak the same language. They did not have the same culture. Let's be clear with that. They did not have the same culture. And let's not talk about the ones that come from Mexico. When I say come from Mexico, remember, Texas and all of that was Mexico. Texas and New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, all that was Mexico. Okay, that's the Spanish ones. Okay. So they have no right to be standing up talking about who's native and who's not. I know you not for real. I know you damn sure not saying all natives look like you. I know you damn sure not acting like all natives was a monolith and on one accord and was like FBA people, one people, because they weren't. Natives of this land was just as tribal as Africans. Oh yes, honey. They was each other too. Just like the Africans was doing before European invasion. The natives were doing the same thing. Again, they did not all look alike. They were not all one big nation of people. Oh, they were historical tribal enemies that deleted each other. They had different languages, different cultures, and they conquered each other just like in Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? And a majority, all of them, were whitewashed when Europeans invaded. They're no longer native. They were whitewashed. And then they had some Europeans mixed in with the natives who were whitewashed, making them look more white. Sometimes you can't even say, be like, you native, you looking like a white man, a white person to me. And then they have the natives on the East Coast here of America in the South who mixed with who Africans they didn't mix with Africans, but Africans mixed with them. So how it went down. They were enslaved side by side, Africans. America had already had beaucoup slaves. They didn't need no slaves from Africa. That's how come all the slaves went to the South American, the Caribbeans and stuff, because America already had enslaved the natives. They were the ones building plantations and stuff before the Africans even came, before they brought the Africans here. The natives was doing it. And so what happened? What happened was that they enslaved the Africans right on side of the natives because the Europeans came with a lot of diseases and it caused those people to be wiped out. Just having contact with Europeans was killing a lot of them off. Just contact with them in the presence of natives. Yeah. And sometimes they purposely went in the presence of natives with stuff and touched stuff and rubbed stuff all over stuff, all kind of stuff, traded with them, chicken pox stuff that, yeah. And so a lot of them were wiped out. And then they began to bring in African slaves who they were like, oh, those people were They were good in the sun. They live more stronger and stuff because a lot of the natives would delete themselves. They would, before they continue into slavery, they would escape, stuff like that. And so, they started bringing in Africans little by little. Not a whole lot in America because once again, America had its own batch of Buku slaves, which was the indigenous peoples, that was tribal people that was already in those parts of the country, America. Okay, so when you talk about Africans being brought to America, remember it was very few. It was not a whole lot, sweetheart. Not a whole lot. So before the cotton gin, it was not a whole lot. Very few. After the cotton gin, there was a boom, a cotton gin boom, because you can make stuff faster because of the cotton gin was cleaning the stuff faster. So they had an economic boom, but that's when they brought in most of the Africans after the cotton gin. But a lot of times the Africans were enslaved side by side with the native people. The Africans and the natives were forced to speak the white man's tongue, but contact language is kind of tricky because when people speak different languages, they learn how to, communicate with different words. And our Ebonics is definitely just like American English. They would not tell you this. They refuse to admit that the American English has influence of African and indigenous native wordings. But they like, no, our English is standard English. No, it ain't nothing but a Creole, sweetie. A mixture of language, definitely heavy with indigenous languages. A lot of these states and cities are indigenous language. They're named after indigenous tribes, names. Okay? A lot of stuff we say is indigenous language, but we don't know it. We think it's American, but it's not. American English has been creolized. It's contact language, American, because they dealt with different groups of people. They dealt with the indigenous, they dealt with the Africans. Okay? It's a mixture language. That's what they call it, American General American language. I ain't gonna go into that. When I was talking about one point, I hear people talking about, I speak standard. I ain't never, listen, there's a way, I'm gonna touch upon it real quick. Listen, there's a way, there's an understanding. Some people speak a spoken language, right? Not some, all of us speak a spoken language, and then we speak a written language. Not speak a spoken language. There's a written language, and then there's spoken language. We don't speak the way we write, and we don't write the way we speak. I don't know why people can't catch on to that. Do you know how we write essays and research papers? We have to be very particular, precise, and use grammar. We use grammatical structure and punctuations. We don't talk the way we write. That is called written language. You don't talk the way you write an essay and stuff. You don't go around talking like that. You talk a colloquial dialect. If you talk the way you... And then there's a such thing as spoken language. Spoken language is your colloquial dialect, how you talk to people and whatever. You damn sure don't write the way you speak. You don't write an essay research paper the way you speak in your colloquial language with other people or vernacular. You don't write that way. When you write a research paper or essay, you're going to write proper, structured, with punctuation marks. You don't talk the way you write. There's called written language, and then it's spoken language. Period. I know what I'm talking about. People are like, oh no, I speak the standard. Nobody speaks standard English. What are you talking about? We speak a spoken language. And then we have a written language that we write with. They're not the same, the structure. Nah, I'm gonna leave that alone. moving back to the conversation. Yeah, there's a lot of indigenous names from indigenous languages because the indigenous tribes had different languages. And a lot of these names we don't even know. Cities and states and stuff, that's indigenous language. Yeah, a lot of the American language is filled with indigenous languages. It's common sense, isn't it? If you go to Africa and you're a small minority and you're around a bunch of indigenous Africans, you're going to end up speaking, having a contact language where y'all speaking, using each other's language to understand each other. Do you understand? And the longer you're there, the more you're going to be influenced by their language and they influenced by yours. But if they're the dominating society, you're going to be influenced more by their language. American English, which they call General English, it has General American English has been it's the wordings. A lot of the words are not English rooted. All right. So moving along from that, I just wanted you to know that our Ebonics as well is very heavily influenced with indigenous tribal languages. They'll say, no, it's African. No, the F is not. It's indigenous. And at one point, the few Africans that was brought here during slavery, they were absorbed. A lot of them escaped, absorbed into indigenous tribal communities. And then eventually, when they had to give out land reparations and stuff to indigenous that they didn't want to give, they reclassified a lot of the tribes as Negro people. So you had tribes of people. They were like, well, we'll do it to 2 minutes. Yes, the hell you did. They had tribes of people identified or reclassified as Negro people. So they absorbed Africans into their tribe because it was more of them than the Africans. Always. It was always more of the indigenous people than Africans. And Africans were absorbed into indigenous tribes and then labeled Negroes. I hope you follow that, what I just said. The few African people that was here in slavery, they were absorbed into indigenous tribes. And then the white tea man, because he didn't want to give land reparations, classified and reclassified the natives, tribes as Negro people. Again, there's people that will tell you oh, my finger hit the button. I almost lost the stream. My finger hit the button. The stream, it exited me out of the stream, and I was able to come back in. Oh my gosh! So, anyways, they they have some people tell you that their family is indigenous and they have African ancestor, and that's highly correct. I'm trying to tell you, there wasn't a whole lot of African slaves here like that. There wasn't a whole lot. After the cotton gin, they brought in. Excuse me, let me cough right. After the cotton gin invention, they brought in a lot of Africans because they wasn't dealing with the indigenous people anymore. They was fading out real quick. So they kind of left them alone and just let the Africans be enslaved. You see it? You see that? So the indigenous people were fading off a lot. So they just kind of escaping and stuff, dying off, whatever. So they kind of brought the Africans in to replace the indigenous. It wasn't a whole lot. Okay. Um, and that happened slowly. But by the time the cotton gin creation came in, it was majority African people that was enslaved. Negro people, you can say, because the African in them, that was kind of boom, boom, out. They became an admixture with African ancestry. Okay. So I want you guys to know that when them mixed, because all the native people were whitewashed. When them whitewashed ones over there, that was especially the ones from the Spanish crown when they took over, when the Spanish had conquered the indigenous people of North America all the way up to Texas and Colorado and Utah, Nevada, and Arizona, New Mexico, California. All of that was Mexico. They were under the Spanish crown. Okay. And the white tea people put them up as a prop to say this is how the indigenous natives look. Oh, child, go take a seat. No, they don't. So, anyways, again, I'm gonna wrap this up by saying indigenous people of this land was just like the Africans, just as tribal as they were over there. They all had distinctive looks. They were dark skinned, though a lot of them. They all had distinctive looks, different hair textures, different they were all dark skinned, really, really dark. And they they were very tribal towards each other. They had historical tribal enemies. They spoke different languages and they conquered each other. You know, they lead and conquered each other. Okay, that same stuff that was happening in Africa. Yeah. So it doesn't make no common sense for one of them natives to be stepping up to um foundational Black Americans when it's written and it's documented talking about we not natives. Are you stupid or dumb? I mean, just believe anything the white man say. Are you saying natives were one big group of people on this continent and moved as a monolith as one? You're a lie. So in New Orleans, there's the Indian parades and stuff like that, and we honor our ancestors through celebration in New Orleans every year. It's a tradition. Some people think them people be having on wigs. Some people do have wigs, but some people don't. Hmm. Boy, if I show y'all some pictures, you'll be like, that's a wig? No, baby, that's not a wig. But listen, in New Orleans, Indian parades and celebration of honoring ancestors and how some of the Indians took in Africans, they honor all that. Do you know that it can get violent because it's different Indians and they doing a indigenous cultural tribal act? Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that they be talking ish to each other during the parades. They come out and they talk ish to each other. Trash, we call it in New Orleans. And the trash can turn violent. Yeah, they go into their real indigenous roots. A lot of people don't know that. They be at the Indian parades just like, but it can be a little dangerous now. Okay. Okay, so moving along from that, yeah, look into it. We also have Indian music in New Orleans. I love it. I grew up listening to my dad. He's 70. He up there talking about he going marching the Indian parade. I'm like, okay, have a good time, sir. Cause okay, it's very, very. It can get spiritual. Yeah, it can. If I mean, them brothers get deep into it, like, whew, and they don't allow women in. Some of their practices and stuff, they don't allow women in. It's a man thing. I don't know why, but either way it go, they take it serious. Okay, and so many of New Orleans people ancestors come from the reservations, and they some of them hold tight to the culture and some don't. Of course, when you move to the city, though, don't nobody hold tight to it. People just be like black. But anyways, I'm gonna move along from that. I just wanted to share with you that I'll never let another native person tell you, you know, the ones they say is the real native, they prop up, and that's the ones from Mexico at that under the Spanish crown. They use them. Or they might use a northern native. From up there, the Russians took over them. So they're gonna look whitish. They might use them as a prop and be like, this how natives look. Please stop. So don't ever let those people tell you what a real native look like and so forth. Okay. Matter of fact, as time went on, the southern native tribes, they really disliked the northern native tribes. The West Coast was Mexicans now under the Spanish crown, but they really disliked the native ones because they found that the southern native tribes was like, those are coon sellouts, because the northern tribes, who was whitewashed with Russian, they wanted assimilation. They were like, we cool with assimilation, let's do it. And they try to promote it to the other natives, southern natives, and it was like, hell to the no. Okay, that's where jazz music comes from, mind you, by the way. Jazz music comes from Negro people and indigenous people. Chanting and all that from natives. The jazz musicians write about how they were influenced by the music of these native tribal people. Yeah. So we're not African and all that old crap they be pushing. I did a stream and I explained that they say that our Ebonics was African rooted because there was 36 words that Africans use. And so therefore our Ebonics was African rooted because of 36 words. When I looked at the 36 words, there only a 4 or 5 of them stood out to me, or 6. That's it. And they were English words that America used in their language. Yeah. And then they also said they labeled our Ebonics as African because the way we speak, the way we structure our sentences, rather than saying she is tall, we say she tall, and that's the way Africans speak. I don't know what particular Africans. They didn't stress what particular African. They think we so fucking dumb. They wouldn't stress to us what particular Africans speak like this because they don't all speak the same. So what Africans are you talking about speak this way? But it's lies, of course. And so they also say our tonish, the way we sound, our voice, the way our voice carry out is like Africans. That's another reason that they labeled our Ebonics as African and Africanized our Ebonics by saying it is African American vernacular English, when it's not. Our Ebonics is influenced by English, European English, and indigenous native tongue. Different tribes at that. Not African. So, our culture is an intermixture of culture of African, European, and indigenous. Rarely anything African, because the African was just, you know, our people became Negroes, influenced by European and native culture. We wasn't around Africans. It became Native and American culture that was brought together for us. That's how that works. And whatever little African um, thing that may have trickled down, because it wasn't much. We were not around them daily to pick up anything from them. Our culture existed of people we were around, Europeans and indigenous people. Yeah. So we have an intermixture of culture, and we're an admixture of people now with an intermixture of culture. Our culture is intermixed. So there we have it on that. Let me move along real quick, because I said I wasn't going to talk about the indigenous thing, but I ended up talking about it anyway, real quick. So I was listening to a panel earlier today, and the African guy, the host, he's a hater of foundational Black American, but he identifies himself. Well, he doesn't identify himself as foundational Black American. He says, according to Tariq's definition, he's foundational Black American. But yet he's also Nigerian, he say, and he's a Pan-African. So he jumps back and forth through the constant suits of Nigerian, FBA, Black American. Wait a minute, what the heck? So he was up there disrespecting the FBA family as usual. His whole channel is based on that. And there's a guy on his channel by the name of Vovo. Vovo was claiming to be a foundational Black American from the South. But one day he slipped up and took his hat off, and his dang on hairline was so far back, it started where his ears are. And I'm like, oh, but no, sir. No, that's a wrap. No. Hello. Then he made a comment that he didn't understand why I was banging on the host for disrespecting our ancestors, the foundational Black Americans. This happened way, way, way back months ago. And I say, you know what? That right there is a cosplaying African. I mean, cosplaying FBA. He's cosplaying our people in the South. My daddy was a blues singer. Oh, stop it. These people are outrageous to me. Like, I can't believe the behavior of these. Like, I mean, I don't know. I can't understand it when you go to somebody else's country and cosplay them. And you go as far as talking about knowing your roots is in Africa. Well, I'm a Black American, and my daddy was a blues singer. Because, say, for instance, you was born there and your parents wasn't. My daddy was a blues singer. Well, who told you that? Anyways, your hairline is telling me something different. And I don't mean to criticize people's looks. I ain't into that at all. No. But that hairline and him defending the anti-FBA host told me more than enough. All right, let's move along. Let's move into, this is what I want to share with you right quick. So I was listening to the channel today earlier, right? While I was cooking, I was listening in. And honey, he played a video. His title is King. They disrespecting the FBA family. The title of the video is "The King Family Skipped Jesse Jackson's Funeral." What does that matter to Africans? You Africans, sir. You Nigerian. What's business of yours is that? Anyways, honey, listen. They want to be us so bad. It's a shame. So he was playing a video and he was looking for moments to make us tribal, pinpoint tribalism among us, as though all groups don't have little squabbles within. So he was playing a video clip of the people who was present when Martin Luther King was deleted. And as he played the video, he didn't know the guy who was there. He said, he explained everybody who was there. And lo and behold, he said an African was there, y'all. OMG. Do you hear this? He said an African was there. And guess what he said? They found out the African was working for the CIA. He claimed to be a journalist, but he was actually working for CIA, a spy. I want you to hear the clip. Listen to this. Yeah, I tell you, them people's enemies. Listen. He's describing what happened at the time of Martin Luther King's delete. Listen. Oh, wait. By the way, he telling this story because he was mad that Jesse Jackson lied and said he was there when it happened, but he really wasn't. And he explained how Jesse Jackson faked the whole thing by rubbing his hand in Martin Luther King's blood and rubbing it on his shirt and stuff, saying he was there holding him and stuff. And the man said he lost respect for him right then and there. But everybody knew who he was. Everybody knew he was, shady. No disrespect. Everybody saw him as a shady person. But let's listen in, because this African thought that he didn't know that this man was going to say this about the African, that there was an African there who was spying on them in disguise as a journalist. Let's listen.
Even though last night we were required totally such display, who's required totally such display, he said this morning when he came up to the gate, they wouldn't allow us to put anyone on the page until we researched the place. So we were on the we were discussing in Washington.
Guys, hit the like button. Please hit that like button.
And now finally I heard the driver tell Dr. King, I advise you get your top coat. Because even though I have the car on, it's still chilly. The last words he said in his room, okay, Jones, I'll get my top coat. So I heard this thing say, wow. And I honestly thought someone had thrown a firecracker into the air. And I looked around to rebuke whoever was that speaking. And I heard something, fell up above my head. And I looked up, and his leg was sticking through the ring. Up came on one type of stuff. And I knew that was him. I said, oh, my God, they got me. And then I had to run about 50 feet down back up, and I got to him. And Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA. So,
Ooh, did you hear that? A guy from Africa was traveling with them, the news person, a journalist, and they found out later on he was CIA. Now y'all better wake up. Let's hear it one more time.
and I looked up, and his leg was sticking through the ring. Up came on the whole thing. I looked up.
Boy, the African was working for the CIA, allegedly. God.
Ooh, did you hear that? The Pan-African anti-FBA host says, oh gosh, he said an African working for the CIA, allegedly. No, sir, they were there. They were there. Why did they need to have an African in their midst? Talking about he a journalist. Ooh, woo. Foundational Black Americans, I am glad y'all waking up to the true tea. Ooh, let's say that again.
And then I had to run about 50 feet down back up, and I got to him. And Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA. So,
Ooh.
Oh, boy. Oh, Lord. Oh, boy. The African was working for the CIA, allegedly. God damn.
From Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA. So,
oh, boy. Oh, Lord.
Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA.
Oh boy, oh Lord. Oh boy, that.
I hope y'all heard it clear. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put this in a title because we need to understand just who they really are. And they're still doing the same thing today, effing with us and harassing us. Period. But the one thing I don't like to see my people entertaining these people. We should be ignoring these people to the fullest. Conversations with them. Come on now. Child, please, bye. Don't talk to me no more. Uh-uh. No, no, sir. No, ma'am. Don't talk to me about none of that stupidness. I don't want to hear it. So I'm gonna put that in the title so people can know. Y'all go through this clip and hear it. I don't know where he get this video from because he didn't label the video where he got it from. Let me see. He didn't like that though. He passed over that. And he didn't even touch upon that. He said allegedly. No, sir, not allegedly. You African, not to be trusted. So, anyways, let me tell you something what I do remember about Jesse Jackson. It's probably why the Africans like him. I remember that, hold on. I remember something Jesse Jackson did for an African woman in Africa. When that guy, Adelio or something like that, African guy who was shot up in New York by the police, because I don't think he understood English and he was going for his wallet. And they shot him multiple times. And so his mother, Jesse Jackson, reached out to her and he told her that he wanted to help her to get compensation because the one thing her son would want is for her to be taken care of, her and his sister to be taken care of. He had a sister in Africa with his mom. And so he had to convince that woman. That woman, of course, she was grieving at the time, but Jesse Jackson also was convincing her that, listen, your son will want you to be taken care of. That's his whole point for coming to America and all that, to take care of his family. Is that not so? And she was like, yeah. She was on the Oprah Winfrey Show a few decades ago. I haven't heard nothing about her since. And so her daughter ended up having twin boys. And so, anyways, Jesse Jackson sued on her behalf, the police department. And then he took it a step further and he tried to he couldn't bring the check to her or anything. She had to come to America and sign the papers. Jesse Jackson had to convince this woman to come. She did not want to come. He convinced her to come to the airport at least, to get off the plane in the airport. She did not want to come to America. Nope, she did not want to come. He told her, you don't have to come outside the airport. Just come to America. I'll be waiting there with the papers for you to sign and hand you over your check. She flew out and came. She did not leave the airport. Jesse Jackson and the lawyers were there. They signed the papers and everything and handed her the check. It was multiple millions, of course. And then she turned around and went back home. Yeah. It was Jesse Jackson and them that helped that lady compensate her for what her son would have, how her son would have wanted her to be taken care of. And so she went on the Oprah Winfrey Show about, I think I seen that show probably about 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago. And she was on there discussing what happened and stuff like that. And she started some programs for Black youth or something like that. I don't know if it was in Africa or America. I don't think she lived in America. I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, that's what I remember Jesse Jackson doing for that family. I remember that. He said, your son will want you to be taken care of. So he convinced her to come and he made sure that she, you know, got, you know. So, um, did I talk about how, I think I talked about this earlier, that we need to be aware that FBAs are being heavily trolled on social media by the Nigerians with their Nigerian tech hub. And they have those white people established that industry over there and they work for the white people. The white people put the names and African names and stuff, and so they on the payroll. Okay. Now listen. What else I want? Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about Godfrey. Godfrey told us he was on a show. And that's another thing. I really wanted to touch up on foundational Black Americans that have integrationist mindsets. Their mindset is they're so proud of the integration or the diversity among them that they believe nothing can be done without diversity of people in the mix. That's people who are weak minded. They don't believe they can do anything on their own. They believe that the only way they can be successful is to have diversity there, other groups of people, other ethnic groups of people there to support. That is weak links. See, they're not like me and Black Alpha Network. We say, no immigrants at all, period, point blank. Full Black American, both parents, that's the team right there. Because we're moving forward. We believe in ourselves. We believe we can do it. We don't need outsiders to do nothing. Matter of fact, they seem to need us. They seem to copy us. But there are some foundational Black Americans that's integrate. They have an integrated mindset, and it's a weak link mindset with that diversity, where they think that we have to have diversity to succeed. Get away, get away, kick rocks. Ugh. So, anyways, I did a video on Godfrey, and I had some people I heard later on talking about Godfrey isn't like that. He speaks good on our behalf. He defends us. He windmills for us with the Africans. He windmills for us all day long. Now, I know I wasn't tripping. Let me pull it up, matter of fact. Since you want to play these games like Miss Chantel tripping, I know I wasn't tripping when I say I heard Godfrey say, we. Hold on. Here it is, baby. Here we go. I'm going to let y'all hear. How long is this clip? I'm going to let y'all hear what Godfrey had to say. Now, I want you to remember he's Nigerian American, not foundational Black American. I want you to hear this. Because I said that Godfrey is a slick Pan African. And people got their panties in a bunch. They was like, he ain't saying nothing bad. That man is out here windmilling for us. And y'all always got to find something wrong with anybody, everybody, huh? He ain't said nothing bad about us. I say, well, he did. He's slick with it. I told you Pan Africans come from different angles. You got to be careful with them. I say, he talking about Black people invented everything. What Black people, sir? Sir, we're not flat Black, sir. What people are you talking about invented everything? Because he's a Pan-African, is what I was saying it. Okay? I'm going to tell you what he's up to once I let you hear this clip. Let's hear him talk about the title called We Invented All of This Shit. Who is we though? He believes in flat blackness. Let's listen.
For hundreds of years, we've been the most hated. But within that hatred comes the hypocrisy of loving our culture. You've made trillions off of our mother culture. You know that. You've made money off our culture.
He's Nigerian, by the way, talking about our culture.
Okay, let's be real. 100%. You've made money off our culture. White musicians, all of them have made money off of black culture. All of rock.
Black culture, not foundational Black American culture, but he say our culture.
All of jazz, all the shit we created.
Ooh, all the shit we created, he said. He's Nigerian American now. Oh no, I wasn't tripping. He's a Nigerian American claiming Black American inventions as we. He's a Nigerian. Therefore, other Nigerians have the right to say we created all of this shit. That's flat blackness. That's Pan-Africanism. Listen. See, some people they don't have good insight. All they hear is him saying good things about them. They can't hear the part where he's straight up disrespect. And let me tell you something. Godfrey do not use the term FBA. He do not say that right there. I've listened to him a good bit speak about us. And one thing he don't do, he don't speak the term FBA because he does not believe in it. And I told you before, I said I like Godfrey, I think he's funny. But he doesn't he believes in flat blackness. He's a sneaky Pan-African who won't call himself a Pan-African. I'll tell you what he's up to in a minute. You hear him though saying we, and he's a Nigerian American. And as a Nigerian American, I mean other Nigerian Americans have the right to also say we invented this, we invented the culture, and we invented everything. Listen. This is a form of stealing your whole culture and identity. When other ethnic groups of people say we invented everything, that means foundational Black Americans didn't invent everything. As he said, Godfrey, Black people invented everything. Black people invented everything. Listen.
Well, the oppression and the abuse and the rape and the putting down of us, we could.
What the did Africans go through that in America? He talking about us. Okay, let me pause in a minute. We have to respect that. When it comes to these first, second, and third generation of people born in America, especially the first generation, they truly believe that they are one of us. I know it's spooky and stuff, but they have serious identity issues. They truly believe they're one of us. Yeah, that's why he's talking like that from the heart. He truly believes that he's one of us. Okay, this lineage thing is hard. The delineation is very, very hard for first generation of immigrants. Yeah, delineation talk when it comes to FBA is really, really hard for them to because they kind of like stuck in a rut where they believe that they're truly one of us because they don't know their mothers, their parents' culture. They only know our culture. And when we say, well, you're not actually by lineage one of us, you culturally one of us because you grew up around us, but you by lineage, you're not one of us. It's totally confusing. Okay, I'm not gonna get into that or whatever. I'm just saying we gotta respect that that's how their mindset is. People that's first generations here. All right. So let's continue. And it's no disrespect. I'm not being disrespectful by saying, pinpointing him saying this. I just don't want it to be where he actually believed that when he said black, it's a flat blackness. And it includes all kinds of Black people. When you say Black people created, that means you're saying all Black people created the stuff in America and went through rapings and killings and all that. No, not all Black people went through that. A particular group of people went through that. And that's Foundation of Black Americans, ADOX / Foundation of Black Americans.
Create blues, jazz, rock and roll, reggae, ska. We invent all of that shit.
And go that we again.
And to top it off, we invent all the
We.
modern shit that you all use. From the video game cartridge, Henry Lawson. Huh? We got the pacemaker, Otis Boykin. We have the late Dr. Bath, who created the laser eye surgery. We have Dr. Gladys, who's still alive, who's almost 80 years old, who created GPS. For hundreds of years, we've been the most hated. But within that hatred comes the hypocrisy of loving our culture. You've made trillions off of our mother culture. You know it.
Trillions off the culture. He's talking about Foundation of Black American culture, but he considers himself flat Black.
And you make money off our culture. Let's be real. 100%. You make money off our culture.
So there it is. I wanted you guys to hear that because some people was acting like Miss Chantel is on that. Oh, you just being, you know. I'm like, nah, he's a sneaky Pan-African. Or if he don't want to identify with Pan-Africanism, he definitely believes in flat Blackness. He may not have the mindset of Pan-Africanism. I never heard him speak on Pan-Africanism. Let me tell you the two things he stay away from. He stays away from the term Pan-Africanism, and he stays away from the term foundational, FBA, Foundational Black American. Those two things he do not speak of. I would really like to hear what he has to say about them, but he avoids them to the fullest. Now, he was on a panel recently, and I want you to hear what he had to say about this. Oh, this is funny.
The Civil Rights Bill is the reason why our parents got the Civil Rights Bill because of African Americans, foundational black coming in here, busting their ass, being treated like shit,
Coming in here.
being hung, lynched, Jim Crow.
Excuse me. Hold on, sir. Did he say from African Americans coming in here? No. Sold to Europeans by other African kingdoms. Okay.
Slavery was Jim Crow, segregation, Reconstruction, being promised that they were going to get this, fighting every war. They've been black people fought in every single war, and still being disrespected, not being able to buy.
Still saying black people. Y'all motherfuckers better wake up to this slick Pan-African talk. When they say black people, when he say black people, he's included everybody. Okay. Now you can see why Umar, oh man, come on, listen to this.
Homes. You understand? Burning up of black.
Again, I don't really blame him because he's a first generation African that I told you they have identity issues.
And people go, well, why ain't they saw opportunity? They were black Wall Street. There were black banks, black hospitals, and they came and burned it. Black excellence. They came and burned it because a white woman said somebody raped them, and they never did because a white woman lied. Mm-hmm. So this whole myth of African Americans not seeing opportunity, they did see opportunity, but you imagine, just like colonization in Africa, but imagine everywhere you go, someone is running you out of town, someone's trying to kill your.
Ain't it stupid to say Black Americans don't see opportunity? Are you stupid or dumb? You have whole countries over there in Africa, your own country, and you don't see opportunity there.
Son from going to school. So African Americans see opportunity, but the way the ghettos, first of all, you know where the word ghetto comes from? Jewish people. That's where ghetto transferred over to America because everybody was in the ghettos at one time. Right. Sure. They were not. I know some black people that like I'm not as descendant of slaves. We were already here. You know that black people were already here. Black people already traveled to like Steve.
Oh my gosh, he said black people had already traveled here. before slavery. That bold crap about all black people come from Africa. And hold on. So black people had already got on canoes in oh, so black all dark skinned people to them come from Africa. So black people hadn't got on canoes with their family, children, elders, and everything, and drifted with them pedals in a wide open ocean. Let's talk about nighttime with sharks and all kind of the stupidity of this is too much. Now he's saying they had black people already in America that came from Africa.
All over the world. We were already, our black presence is everywhere.
Okay.
Mexico, go to Mexico. You speak black. Oaxaca, Mexico. 200,000 Africans, and then there's black Mexicans in Oaxaca.
Okay, so before Africans even got to Mexico, by the Spanish Europeans, the natives there were already very, very, very dark skinned people.
Oaxaca restaurant in LA. Oaxaca, Mexico.
All dark skinned people do not originate from Africa, my
So
goodness.
black Mexicans. And Mexicans actually helped slaves, black slaves back in the day in the 1800s. They helped slaves. That's why you see black kids and black clash and go, you don't know your history. They don't know the history.
Mexicans help black slaves during slavery. So slavery ended a little earlier in Mexico. And they did have some slaves that did escape there. And they were absorbed into certain tribes. But the way that goes is the caste system in what was known as Mexico, the caste system, they had them separated. They had mestizos, they had Afro indigenous people, they had indigenous people, and they had the ones that was indigenous and Spanish. And they had a caste order where it was the Spanish, and it was the Spanish children that was born. They had two Spanish parents, European parents that was born in the colony. And then after them, it was the Spanish that was mixed with, it was the indigenous that was mixed with Spanish. And then it was the indigenous Afro and Spanish mixture Persian called mestizo. So they had a whole caste system. And so they had them separated, spread it out, where they had the Afro-Indigenous people were farmers, where the Africans were farmers, the Afro-Indigenous people were like animals. They took care of the animals and stuff, horses and all that. They bred horses and stuff. And the mestizo people, they did whatever they had them doing. So that's how it went. So when they were absorbed into somewhere into Mexico as a runaway slave, not many of them at all, very, very few. When they were absorbed into an African, the Africans were mixing with indigenous as well. So they were absorbed into a African indigenous camp. Okay. Because they had a color caste system there. Yeah.
If you read what? Do you know the history of us? You helped black slaves back in the day, but they make sure they shut all that shit down so they don't. So this doesn't have to keep on the fight. If this happens,
it wasn't a whole lot. He's speaking as though it was a lot. No, it wasn't. It was a few, and they were absorbed into particular people. They were not absorbed into European and mestizo and all that.
Over with Asians, do you know? Watch this. Our connection to Japan is amazing. When I was in Tokyo, walking past, I go, man, I noticed Japanese are similar to Nigerians. Their name, like Fumi, is a Japanese name. Yeah. Fumi is a Yoruba name. Yeah, it is. Same spelling.
My MF goodness, these people always trying to latch themselves on to other cultures of people around the world. If you see similarity, that's fine, but why you gotta go all deep into it? Like, what's up with the latching though?
What's going on? I walked past the store, said, Chipua. It's spelled like my name, except the other. I said, oh, what the hell? I said, I'm Chipua. Same spelling. That spelling. I go, what's going on? Then I was dating this Japanese girl once. Couldn't speak English that well. And she's teaching me Japanese.
What? She couldn't speak English.
And she's doing the Japanese sound. There's the sound thing. Ba 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 bo bo. A ba bi ba bo. Exercises. Thing. Then I find out on YouTube the Edo. Edo is a town in Japan because of Nigeria, like some Nigerians, like samurai, came over there and established Edo in Japan. In Japan, not in Africa. Came over because they're Black Japanese people. Yo, there's a connection to Nigerians and the Japanese, man.
I gotta pause on that one. What the F? Black, now listen, I haven't dabbled in Japanese studies or anything like that of Asian countries. Okay, I have no interest in it. But listen, Black Japanese people. I mean, I don't think he's talking about people that migrated there later. It sounds like he's trying to say, what the fuck is he trying to say? Is he trying to say that with the latching, man? I don't get this. Like, what? You should see the way he looking too, with the eyes stretched open. Hold on, let me chat GP this, because this is crazy. This is wild right here. I have no idea about, the Japanese culture. So let's see. Was there, I hate to say Black people, let's say Africans to be particular now, because I like to keep it specific. Were there Africans? Were there Africans in Japan? Let's say this is interesting. Let me see. So it says, yes, there's some evidence of Africans reaching or influencing Japanese historically. But it's important to separate three different periods: ancient possibilities, medieval contact, and well-documented early modern contact. The clearest historical example is Yasuki, an African man who arrived in Japan 1579 with Portuguese traders. And yeah, there was always, Europeans always had Africans on their ships as workers to help them and stuff. Okay. They not only transported slaves, but there was Africans on a ship that worked for them and stuff. And they were considered free Africans, but they were working for Europeans on the ships. Okay. So everywhere they went, they had Africans with them. He served the Japanese warlord, Oda. He served the Japanese warlord. They didn't say slave, but they say served. Nabongo was fascinated by Yasuko and made him a Sumara warrior. Yasuki fought in battles and lived in Japan during the Sengoku period. This shows that Africans definitely reached Japan by the 1500s, mainly through Portuguese trade routes connecting Africa, India, and Asia. So therefore, they were in those other countries as well, India, and everywhere they went, pretty much. African sellers and traders and Asian trade networks for Europeans. Okay, so it says before Europeans reached Japan, Africans were already traveling across the Indian Ocean. Yeah, I can believe that. East African traders from places like, right, I was about to say that, not West Africans. East African traders from places like modern Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania. Yeah, yeah, they sell to Arabia, India, Southeast. Yeah. So, yeah, I can believe that. These trade networks were active long before the 1500s. It's documented little that small numbers of Africans could have indirectly reached Japan. Okay. There's no strong archaeological proof that Africans migrated to Japan in prehistoric times. Well, considering like the Tibet people in the mountains and stuff like that, I would definitely say I've always believed that before the Europeans invaded, there was the Arab invasion as well. And a lot of African tribes was, they may have heard of the invasion and they may have heard of it on the West Coast, and then on the East Coast, they were being invaded by Arabs. So and the Arabs was doing it first. So, in my thought, like the Jawawa tribe that ended up on this island in India, near India. I think that a lot of tribes was escaping the African continent on foot, escaping by traveling as far, far, far as possible. When it's when the people that was enslaved in America, Africans, a lot of them, the Negro people actually, by then they were Negroes, they escaped through the woods. They went so far, far, far that they reached the end of the line, all the way up to Halifax, Nova Scotia. Oh, they walked so far, they ended up, boom, you can't go no further at the ocean line. And that's where they settled. It was a very, very, very cold place. And they still have the culture of them there now today, living in Nova Scotia. Yeah, they still there today. And it's super, super, super cold. They're trying to push them out now because they want to use it for industrial area and stuff like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? You want to use the ocean coastline as beautiful it is for industrial stuff? Stop it. Anyways, I believe the same thing happened with Africans who were escaping Arabian slave traders and stuff like that. When they began to move about, they moved so far till they came to a halt. The Jawawa tribe ended up on an island, and they ain't to be played with. They ended up on an island um, near India. When they feel threatened, they laugh like hyenas. Totally creepy and scary. Anyways, I believe that some of them went as far as the mountains of Japan, which is very beautiful. Like the Tibet mountains and stuff. A lot of those people up there are black. They have black in them. You can clearly see it. Period. So yes, I do believe that long, 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 long ago, those people migrated there and settled there in those mountains, and they may have come up against another Asian tribe that they mix with. Yeah, most definitely. If you guys check that out, the Tibet tribes in what's the mountain called? I guess it's called Tibet. Yeah, them people black. So, anyways, let's move along. I just wanted to look that up because he's on some culture latching stuff. 1 second.
Telling you, it's crazy. Edo, my cousin's Edo. Yeah, I played some cat.
Let's go back here.
And people go, well, why ain't they saw opportunities? They were like, you understand? Burning up of blacks. Every war, they've been black people Jim Crow segregation in their ass, being treated Syrians, Koreans, Indians, the most racist son is on the planet, had to sign that civil rights. Well, Martin Luther King, right. Yeah. So that is the reason why Koreans can come here. It's because of African Americans, foundational background, coming in here, busting their ass, being treated like shit, being.
Oh, by the way, he changed his speech. By the way, I wanted to say that. Now he's particular when he speak about us. He's particular to say he don't say black now. He says foundation, not foundational. He says Black Americans. Let me see. Did he say foundational?
Coming in here, busting it because of the civil rights bill. It's because of African Americans.
He said African Americans. Let's see.
Foundational background.
Oh, he said foundational. Okay.
Busting their ass, being treated like shit, being hung, lynched, Jim Crow, segregation, Reconstruction, being promised that they were going to get this, fighting every war. They've been black people fought in every of black towns, and people go, well, why ain't they? They saw opportunity. So this whole myth of African American.
I wanted to get to the part where the girl told him, that he ought to be glad when he was saying he was teased as a kid, that he ought to be glad that he can look back and relate to where he come from and we can't. I'm like, oh my gosh, child, we're not African. That's number one. And the cultures that we have established, our ancestors, that's another thing they don't realize. We were not enslaved, but our ancestors were enslaved. And the cultures that came out of it, look at us. Everybody wants to be us. Everybody copy our slave culture. They all want to be us. But you call us slaves, but you do everything we do. You latch on to everything we come on now. Stop the foolery. It's goofy. All right, so I didn't get to play that, and it sounds like he changed up his language. So he's being particular now about his speech. He doesn't use the flat black talk anymore. He's being particular now. I never heard him say anything about the FBA term until just now. So he's on track with being respectful of the delineation. I mean, a person can have be a part of the culture, but not be the lineage of the lineage. You understand what I'm saying? It's like growing up in Jamaica. If one of my kids grew up in Jamaica, they got Jamaican culture, but they're not Jamaican by lineage. Okay? So, and that can be respected, that should be respected, period. All right. So I heard a live stream. One of the Pan-Africans were saying that the white supremacists, I think it was Godfrey, have a fear of a black planet. And I'm like, really? A black planet? Well, now, Africa is a black continent, right? Full of black people. And they constantly invade. So I don't know about that. I don't quite agree with that. The only black unity that was a threat to them, the white people, was black unity in America. And I'm going to wrap it up after this, because in America, we're not tribal. We're one big group of people, and we're far from being tribal. We're one. We see ourselves as one and related. And number two, we're the only black people around that is not tribal. On the continent of America, we're all over, but we're not tribal. We're one. And so when we come together, that's a threat to white America. That's a threat. But concerning Africa, where they're so tribal, in other places of Black people where they're so tribal, they're never a threat. And they have come and dealt with not Africans, but with foundational Black Americans infiltrating our neighborhoods with all kind of peoples, all kind of stuff, and all that. That was a part of keeping us separated and from being organized and unified as our people was always in this country. That's how come they always excelled and built up some towns, and they was excelling because unity equals power. And our people always had to be unified to protect themselves. They couldn't be individualistic. That's why they came in our communities and started spreading individualism by giving these particular people money, and then they acting like, oh, you guys are the best, and they set up shop with and make it seem like, well, each man for himself and all of those stuff. The only threat, Black unity threat, existed in America, not anywhere else. All the other peoples are tribal. In America, we're not tribal. The Black people here is not tribal. The Black people that they label Negroes is not tribal people. We're one. You understand? We see ourselves as one big group of people. And yes, our people always moved in unity, and that was a threat. And so what they did, again, in order to stop us from doing anything, they had to break our people apart, jailing the men, leaving the women single, struggling, and just all kinds of stuff in our community, flooding our communities with immigrants, all that. Yeah. Hoping that the mixture come by, and the children that they produce don't concern themselves with, trying to be one. Because once you have a mixture, there's confusion in that. Okay. So yeah, when you do the history search of foundational Black Americans, the past, they were always together, moving in unity, speaking one language and moving as one people, always. And that's how come they were able to build these awesome towns and all the stuff they were doing, because of that unity. And they found ways to infiltrate our community and destroy the unity. And now today you have foundational Blacks just looking at each other because they can't seem to quite relate to each other anymore. They didn't spread hatred between the men and women, dislike between our boys and girls. Yeah. And they use immigrants to do that as well. They put up other immigrants and say they're better than you to keep us, just at it. Not even focus on us, but focus on immigrants who here to compete with us, where they think they are. So all that, even online right now today, major distraction, entertaining immigrants. That's to keep us distracted from ourselves, building. So yeah. We were always a very unified people, but they use whatever tools to separate us and keep us divided. Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there, because this video now is at the mark of 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that's too long. But I went over that before. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up right there, and hit the thumbs up if you guys like the stream, so I can know that you're enjoying the content, and I can continue to come on and do content. All right, and sub to the channel as well. Thank you for tuning in with Miss Chantel, and you have a wonderful night.